Howdy y'all, it's Josh at First Gen Off-Road again, and if you saw our last video, you saw how we put a rear lift on our 2013 Toyota Sequoia with the Platinum airbags, and we also replaced the shocks. If you missed that video, I'll leave a link for it in the description below. In today's video, we're gonna put a matching front lift on our 2013 Sequoia. I'm going to show you guys what suspension parts that we put on it. I'm gonna show you how to take off the old stuff and put the new struts on. As usual, do me a favor and like this video, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. We're gonna take before and after measurements, and we're gonna take it for a drive, see how it rides. So stay tuned, and we'll get going. Oh yeah, and I'll put timestamps in the description below, so if there's something that you're really interested in, you can just go right to the timestamp and take a look. Driver's side, middle of the wheel hub to bottom of the fender flare. We're at 20 and about 3/4. Passenger side, middle of the wheel hub to bottom of the fender flare. We're at 20 and 7/8. Okay, so here's what we're replacing our front suspension with. First thing we've got are Bilstein 5100 shocks. And these are the adjustable shocks. So in the box you get some shocks, you get some stickers, instructions, you get a spring seat, a zip tie, and a top nut. And these are adjustable shocks because they are made to be used with your factory springs. So you can take this, you can disassemble this front strut, you can take the spring off, and you can put it on here. And Bilstein gives you different notches. So you can put this spring seat on like that. It's got a little clip that fits into these grooves. The higher you go, the more lift you get. And if you look at the instructions, it'll say that this one will give you 0.87 inches of lift, this one will give you 1.71 inches, and this one will give you 2.56 inches of lift on your factory spring. So you can take your factory spring, you can take this strut apart, reuse your factory spring, put it on this shock. The issue though is that one, this shock has like 160 something thousand miles on it, and two, as you move this spring seat up, it puts more preload on the spring and it gives the spring less room to compress. So your ride becomes a little more stiff. So what I'm gonna do is leave it on the bottom notch and do what I've done in other vehicles and take an aftermarket bigger spring, this Dobinson spring, and put it on the strut. And we'll leave it on the bottom notch and let this Dobinson's 2.5 inch spring do all the lifting. This is part number C59-720. It's the 2.5 inch spring for a Sequoia. So we're gonna get rid of our factory spring and we're gonna go to our heavier, bigger Dobinson spring. Our factory spring has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and change turns. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and about a half turn. So bigger, thicker spring with more turns, it's gonna give you more lift. So we're not gonna reuse this. We're gonna keep it on the bottom notch. We're gonna put this spring on, and then we're gonna put a new strut mount on. The Bilstein kit comes with a zip tie to go around the boot here, and it comes with the top nut. Our strut mount, our new strut mount, this is a KYB strut mount. It comes with 2 washers, 2 bushings, 1 top bushing, 1 built-in bottom bushing, and we'll use this nut. The other thing that we're going to do is install aftermarket upper control arms, and we have SPC upper control arms here. So anytime you lift a vehicle, the higher you go, the more caster and camber changes you get. And so after a while, the alignment guys can't really align it because they just run out of room at the lower control arm cam eccentrics or the alignment bolts down in the lower control arms. So when you go over, let's say 2 inches, you need to start thinking about an aftermarket upper control arm. I really like SPC because of their adjustability, so you can really dial in caster and camber, and if you're trying to get some bigger tires on, then you can dial in that caster and camber and put those tires and wheels exactly where you want them to be in your wheel well. And then also, as you lift the vehicle, the upper control arm gets lower and lower and lower, and eventually it can start to make contact with the spring every time it flexes. So the aftermarket upper control arm helps to keep the upper control arm off the spring as well. So you get the upper control arm, it's got some bushings that we're gonna press into here. It's also got a new ball joint that will have to be greased, and we'll show you how to do that. And it comes with a new castle nut and cotter pin there. So I'll show you how to put that in. course, we have instructions and we'll go over these in a few minutes. But I guess the first thing we really need to do is get this spring set up on this strut, and we'll do that right now. So this is one thing I wanted to show you guys, and this is one reason that I went with the Bilstein 5100s. So you can see they're even here, and then you go down to the bottom and it's longer. It's actually a longer strut. So although Bilstein doesn't really advertise extended travel, this is about 3/4 of an inch longer. And we're gonna actually measure how much that is with wheels on the ground after we're done installing. And the other reason I'm showing you this is because I'm going to show you how to get the old strut out and put the new strut in, and it's a little more work to get it out, but it's going to save you a lot of work putting this new strut in, because you might be able to squeeze this one out without doing a whole lot of work, but you're going to have a really hard time getting this one in because, again, of the 3/4 inch length difference there. Top of the strut to middle of the eye of the bushing is about 24 1/4 inches. Top of the strut to middle of the eye of the bushing here is about 25 1/8. First things first, chock the tires. So before we go any further, I want to see how much down travel we're going to get with the SBC upper control arms and the longer Bilstein 5100s. So we'll take a before measurement, and again, middle of the wheel hub to bottom of the fender flare, we're right at around 25 1/2 inches. So we'll see what that looks like after we install these upper control arms and longer Bilsteins. So now that we have this wheel off, the next thing that I like to do is take off this ABS line and this brake line. This one is a 10 millimeter. Just so we don't lose it. And this one's a 12 millimeter. Bolt back in so we don't lose it. And here we are at the top of the strut, and we're going to take this little wire harness apart here. So there's a little tab to press on right there. And then you can squeeze this and pull it out like that. And right here, you have two little Allen bolts, one here and one on the other side. This one's pretty easy to get to. This one may take a little more work. One out. This rear one is pretty difficult to get to, so I'm going to pop the hood and go in from the other side. Because that other bolt is kind of difficult to get to, the other option is to come on the inside of the truck. It's right there. So I'll zoom out so you get a better look. And basically it's taken every extension that I have, but you can put a wrench on there and pull it out. So I got it out. So once you got that out, you can just reach up here and pull this off. That's what that is. And then there's an 18 millimeter nut right here. We'll take off. You can pull this little bracket off, I think anyway. There we go. They're actually 14 millimeter nuts that we're gonna leave in place just for right now. And then the next thing we wanna do is just come under here and put a little jack under this lower control arm, just enough to take tension off the sway bar link and the shock. We wanna take this shock off. This is a 22. And then we want to take out the bottom bolt on the sway bar link. It's a 19. We're just going to pry this. So then the next thing you want to do is come down here to the lower control arm bolts. And don't take them out, but just loosen them. So that's a 24 millimeter. There's one on each side, 1 and 2. So let's get you a better view. So don't take these bolts out or these nuts off, just loosen this a little bit. That feels kind of loose there. Again, you don't want to take them out. And then there are two 22 millimeter bolts here that bolt on the lower ball joint. You want to take both of those out. There's one. There's two. So we'll just put these someplace safe. So we should be able to just kind of pull this lower control arm down. So here there are four 14 millimeter bolts. We'll just go ahead and zip these off. This back bolt, or nut rather, is the hardest one to get. I would do it first. Just take it all the way out. There we go. All right, strut out. Now we put this strut in. Let's just go ahead and snug these 4 bolts down. When we were taking them off, it was a 14 millimeter, but if you have a KYB strut mount, it ends up being a 15 millimeter. So I didn't tighten it down all the way. I want to still be able to move it a little bit. So once we get our bottom bolt in the strut, then we can snug everything down all the way. So now we're going to pull our lower control arm back up and put it back into So at this point, you can use a jack and a pry bar to raise or lower these bushings and get them lined up and everything bolted up again. You don't really want to torque it all the way down until it's on its own wheels. Then you can torque it. So I just tightened it down and I'll torque it down the rest of the way after I'm done. The bolt back and the sway bar link. So what I'm gonna do is put the bolt in, pick the hub up, and try and line the whole thing up. And this is when you're glad that you've been working out. So now that they're both in and lined up, I'm going to take one out at a time, put some thread locker on it, and torque it back down. Our lower ball joint is lined up with our spindle, but we're just going to take this nut out. And of course, the jack's in the way, so I can't get my impact in there, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. Put some red thread locker on here. And I have my torque wrench set to 118 foot-pounds. Put a little bit of red thread locker on this. It should go right back in. Not much trouble. And then we'll just use our torque wrench and torque it down to 118. And then the last thing we'll do before we go inside for the night, because we're running out of daylight, tighten our lower control arm bushings back down. Again, that is a 24. And we're just gonna make those as snug as we can make them. Not much room over here. I'm really not worried about the alignment too much because I'm gonna get it aligned after this. I wanna see how much what the shock alone will do in down travel. I think we were at 25.5 before. Let's just put this wheel back on and take a measure and see how it looks. So we are at 25.5 before. We are at 27. So just by switching out to Bilsteins, we got an extra 1.5 inches of down travel. I think, which makes sense because it was a 3/4 of an inch long and it's almost a 2-to-1 ratio, so, or 1-to-2 ratio. So this is why we're going to swap out to an aftermarket upper control arm, because this Bilstein shock is longer and this upper control arm is touching. Let's see if I can show you. That is pretty close. You start moving that around, it's going to start to clang on the spring. The SPC upper control arm will keep the upper control arm off the spring, so it won't clang at full suspension, droop, or extension. So the next thing we're going to do is put our SPC upper control arm on, and we'll see how that changes things. All right, well, let's get this wheel back off and let's get that upper control arm installed. So the first thing we'll do to take this upper control arm off is take this upper ball joint out. So there's a little cotter pin here that we're going to pull out. Just like that. And this is a 19mm. Take this out. And then what I like to do is get a bungee cord and just bungee this spindle in place so the axle doesn't accidentally come out. And then the next thing we're going to do is take this little flap down. This flap actually tore on me, and so this is a roadside repair. See, it tore right there. I think we can get away on this side without taking this flap off, but we'll see. And this is a 22mm. See if we can. Woo! And you want to be really careful not to break or bend or kink that brake line there. So yeah, try and stay away from that. So there's the big bolt. It's a 22mm here and there, and you just want to take out the nut side of it. I'm able to do this without putting any back bracing on the other side of the bolt, but you might have to. Oh, there it is. So it's out, or it's loose enough at least. See if we can get it the rest of the way out. So we got the washer and the nut out. Put that someplace safe. And now we'll see if we can pull this upper control arm out. This will have to be moved. Let's pop the hood and see what we can do about that. So when we pull this upper control arm out, let's see, there is the bolt down there. It's gonna run to this cable, so we're gonna have to disassemble this and move the cable out of the way. So there's a little bolt, there's a little nut actually, just right under the battery tray there that you have to take off. And I did take it off, and I thought my camera was filming, but I guess it wasn't filming. So again, it's a little bolt, or a little nut rather, right under the battery tray. It holds this whole bracket into place here, like this whole bracket. And so you take it off just so you can move this cable out of the way and slide that upper control arm bolt out. And so now that we've got that bracket loose, we can go ahead and slide our upper control arm bolt out. So let's go back around to the other side of the truck and do that. All right, so now that we have this cable loose, we're gonna try and sneak this bolt past that cable. we're not going to reuse the washers, but we are going to reuse this nut and bolt. So we'll put this together just so we don't lose it. So now we have that upper control arm 100% out, and again we have our spindle just bungeed to our springs so our axle doesn't fall out and so our brake lines don't stretch too much or break. Now let's go get that SPC upper control arm and grease the bushings and put them in. All right, so this can be kind of a messy job, so just make sure you've got some gloves and some towels close by. We're gonna get our little bushings here. So it comes with a couple of grease packs. Each arm comes with 2 metal bushings and a couple of washers here. We're gonna hammer them in to these bushings. And the way it works, take a bushing, can y'all see this? Yeah. Put a goodly amount of grease on each one. And I'm going to use all the grease that I can out of this one. Grease is going to come out, and that's pretty normal. We'll just coat the outside there. There we go. We'll turn it over and do the other side. We're going to take our bolt, and we're going to take one of our washers, and we're going to get it started in the upper control arm. And we'll push our upper control arm back through here. There we go. Almost there. Then we can take the other new washer and our old nut and bolt this back down. So before we put in our ball joint, and before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and bolt this bracket back down. We missed it taking off. Well, let's put this ball joint in. Take this bungee cord off. Let's take this top nut off. What is this, a 32? So here are the instructions. And by the way, I'm showing you guys how to do this and I'm going by the instructions. I made a video about SPC arms about 4 or 5 years ago, and about a month after I dropped the video, they actually changed the design. So always go by the instructions. Even if I tell you to do something, the instructions tell you to do something else, go by the instructions. We're gonna put the caster to B, setting B. And so that means that the ball joint is gonna be like that, and turn this kind of like that. And that way, when we slide it into the arm, it'll be where we want it to be. And we'll let the alignment guys take it out. This isn't gospel. If you want to set it up on A or whatever, you can. That all looks lined up. And we'll take this. And we'll tighten this down. So when we're ready to torque this down, this will be torqued down to 150 foot-pounds. Okay, don't be stupid like me. I got so distracted by making this video, trying to make sure that everyone could see and hear what I was doing, I didn't realize that I was installing the upper ball joint backwards. Here's how it should look. That's how I did it. This is on the driver's side. Let's see, we have torque specs here. So let's see. This will be 150 foot-pounds. This is 45 foot-pounds. And this, I forgot what it is. I'm gonna have to look for it, but for right now, but these bushings are made to be torqued down without the vehicle weight on them. So you can go and torque them. You can torque all of this down now if you wanted to. All right, so we're gonna torque this to 45 foot-pounds. And put the cotter pin in. Torque this to 150 foot-pounds at 32 millimeter. Button this up. This ABS line, if we tried to get this bolt holder line up, it's going to put too much strain on this ABS line. So we're just going to bend this bracket a little bit, kind of like this. Let's see if I can do it without hurting anything else. We're almost there. Let's see. So then I can bolt this back on and it won't put too much stress on that ABS line. 10 millimeter. And then we'll come down here to the spindle and we'll attach the other brake line. It's a 12 millimeter. And then last thing we want to do is we'll get some grease. Okay, it's number 11. It says grease ball joint with NLGI number 2 grade LB with 3 to 5% molybdenum disulfide grease. 5 to 10 pumps is sufficient. All right, so we have a grease gun with the recommended grease. And it says that it pump 5 to 10 times. I'll be honest, maybe it's just my grease gun's crappy. I don't know. But I feel like 5 to 10 times is never quite enough.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not getting there.
And before we put it all back together again, I'm gonna do something with this. I think I'm just gonna snip this clip off and we'll zip tie this to something back there. So before I put the wheel back on, I want to show you guys something. Remember how little room there was between the spring and the upper control arm? Now with this SPC, there's like 6 inches of room there. So this is middle of the wheel hub with the tire off the ground to bottom of the fender flare. That was still about 27 inches. So the upper control arm did not give us more down travel than it already had with the factory upper control arm, but it will help to keep the upper control arm off the spring at full flex and will also help us to properly align the vehicle. Let's see, I believe we started at 21 even in the front, and right now we are at about a little over the wheel hub, bottom of the fender, we're about 24 inches. So, I mean, I was expecting 2.5, we got 3, but it's gonna settle some. All right, here it is, folks. We put an airbag spacer in the rear with new shocks. We got about 2 3/4 inches of lift out of that. We put Dobinson's 2.5-inch springs on Bilstein 5100 shocks. We increased our down travel by 1.5 inches, and we got over 2.5 inches of lift out of that before it settles. So when it settles, I'm anticipating about 2.5 inches. It looks pretty level. Parts are at firstgenoffroad.com. I'll give links in the description below. Of course, like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for our next video because we have wheels going on. All right, so, you know, it's one thing to take measurements right after you put the spring in, but I wanted to give you guys measurements after it's had a chance to settle a little bit. So it's been about a month and a half. I have a couple thousand miles on it. And yeah, so I did get bigger tires and new wheels, and that's gonna be the next video showing you that. But let's just go ahead and take a measurement after the springs have had time to settle. So again, it's the center hub to the fender, to the edge of the fender flare. We're right at about 23 3/4 inches. And yeah, we're right about the same. So 23 3/4 inches. Well, yeah, so after driving this for about a month and a half, what I realized is that it's pretty good. I think Bilstein 5100s for the money are pretty good. It rides a lot like stock. You know, it's not mushy, it's not too firm, it doesn't rattle your teeth out, but it makes you feel planted on the road. It's not gonna ride as nice as the Icon 2.5 coilovers that I have on the Sequoia. It's not gonna ride as nice as the Bilstein 6112 2.5s that I have on the 4Runner. It's not gonna ride as nice as the Dobinson's IMS with external reservoirs that I have on the Tundra. There is no 2-inch wide shock body coilover, whether it's Toytech, Bilstein, Eibach, Old Man Emu. There is no 2-inch wide shock that's gonna ride as nice as a 2.5 coilover, the way it is. But that being said, these Bilstein 5100s ride great. I think for the money, they're hard to beat. Anyway, that's it. Next video is about tires and wheels. Subscribe, you'll get to see that. Everything that we did on the video is available at the website firstgenoffroad.com. If you need anything, go there and take a look. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see y'all out there.